All right, we should be back on the air now, Dr. Rima.
Yes, are we on?
I believe we are.
Can you hear me?
All right, an exciting show. So, Dr. Rima, what was the point you and Chris were making when we got that interference?
I was making the point that not only through drugs, but through advanced technologies. Oh, Jaminga cannot hear us yet. Hold on. We should be on shortly. Give us feedback. Now people can hear us.
Oh, good. Very good. All right.
Can you get Chris back?
I'm here.
He's there.
Oh, excellent. We were making the point that it's an apparent situation, but not a real one, that the controllers couldn't possibly be doing this craziness to the world, like Fukushima, for example, and killing the Northern Hemisphere, because after all, they're killing themselves. And the point is they have advanced technologies, which they've had for quite some time, like the peptides that I was talking about, like possibly energy devices that, like Brown's gas, created by Yulee Brown, 25 years ago, and other technologies, possibly like the one that John and Nancy Hutchinson are working on, although I'm not positive about that. These technologies protect them in the same way that it is possible to have free non-petroleum energy, in the same way that it is possible to have abundant solar and ethanol energy, in the same way that it's possible to run cars on air. And by the way, Tata Motors in India already has a car that sells for pretty much nothing that runs on compressed air. This is not a problem. In the same way that the technological fixes have been in for a very, very long time, they also have technological fixes for the radiation, for the GMO damage, for this, for that, and we don't. The reason we don't is that we're supposed to become fertilizer, toxic fertilizer. That is supposed to be our fate under their program. There is no overpopulation. There is under generosity for sharing the abundance of the planet, which is more than sufficient for the population. And there is a desperately inhuman, vicious conception, which has been with us forever, that we are better than they, and therefore we deserve to live and prosper, and they deserve to either serve us in abject conditions or not even be alive. This is the old we, they, I, thou. Martin Buber wrote about this, and it's certainly an evil way of looking at the world to say those people are less human than I, therefore I can dispose of them. But that is what the controllers are doing. And by the way, we were talking when we got knocked off the air about the fact that the technology not only exists but is abundant in their hands for correcting the problems that they are using to kill us with.
That's right. Here's a fun fact for you. Most people are not aware that all of our senators and congressmen, part of the deal they get for being the minions is they get their medical care at military hospitals.
That is correct. Now, I have to tell you, that's not such a big deal. My assessment of military health care from a variety of directions is shouldn't happen to a dog. But
no, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm not saying your average vet could go in and get that same care, but I'm saying that
they're special elite corps.
Right. They can implement whatever they want in their own hospital to whoever they want in any way they want. And so that leaves it open that they are treated for, radiation, chemtrail, whatever, to mitigate the stuff that they're spraying us with and laying on us,
That's exactly correct. Please understand, folks, we're no longer dealing with a republic or a democracy. We are dealing with an elitocracy, and that elitocracy doesn't have the least bit of sympathy, empathy, or compassion for you, your DNA, your children. Is that paranoid? Not at all, because paranoia is defined as an unreasonable suspicion of the motivation and actions of others. This is absolutely reasonable because the data supports it conclusively. We're talking about a conspiracy, a breathing together to accomplish something that is not in your best interest. So if you, at the beginning of the show, before we actually wound up being on the air, in the first 15 minutes when we were having problems, I was talking about the dangerous presumption of normalcy. Just because everything looks and feels like it's normal, we presume that it is normal, and anything that we hear, see, feel, apprehend, or experience that suggests that the world is no longer the way we expect it to be is either pushed out or denied by the vast majority of people. How many people have absolutely opened their minds to the 9/11 truth issues, Chris?
Well, that's an interesting segue because that's where I learned. I happen to be a 9/11 truther, and when you try to wake people up, I'll tell you the main lesson I've gotten is the incredible control that they have over people by owning the mainstream media lock, stock, and barrel. It's just incredible, the power, and it took me years to understand this, that people will not listen if their TV tells them not to listen, period.
Correct. And that is why Goebbels carried a copy of Bernays' book, Propaganda, in his pocket. Goebbels was in charge of the belief system and the perception and the normalcy, the presumption of normalcy of the German sphere of influence. And he learned brilliantly from Bernays. And what we're seeing now is a sauce Bernays on the minds of
Right.
the U.S. and of Europe. What do you think about that?
Yes, ma'am. Couldn't agree more.
A sauce Bernays. That's really where it is. We ought to write about that, Ralph.
Yes, I love that.
Recipe for stupidity. I'm going to make a note of that. Recipe for engineered stupidity.
But what it really is the use of our own best instincts against us, our desire for self-preservation, our desire for a peaceful and prosperous community. All of these desires are really twisted on their heads by the big lie propagandists in order to get control.
Yes, they're clever folks.
We have to understand that these people are phenomenally brilliant. They can hire the best minds in the world. They have time and energy and resources to think and to do in a way that literally staggers us. They are fundamentally outside the money system, because if you have all the money in the world, money is totally irrelevant. They have no restrictions on what they can do, and unfortunately they have precious few moral restrictions on what they will do. When I was going through an exceedingly vicious divorce with a very, very, very angry practice husband, I learned something interesting. I learned the meaning of character. And I discovered, because as a psychiatrist, I knew what personality meant. I knew what personality disorders were. But I had never really understood the term character disorder. What exactly is that? Does it just mean that people do things that you don't like? How does that work? Because I'm very suspicious and always have been of psychiatric diagnoses. So I wondered a lot about the meaning of character. And then during the divorce, my ex-husband, now I'm happy to say ex-husband, taught me the meaning of character. Character is the ability to refrain from doing something that you can do because it's wrong. These people have no character. These people have a character disorder. It's called homicidal psychopathic insanity. I just made that up. But that's what it is. It's homicidal, psychopathic insanity. Somebody wrote they have a reptilian consciousness that absolutely hates humanity. I don't believe they have a reptilian consciousness. I think they have a human consciousness that is organized and developed as a full and complete psychopath, each of them, and that they have no compunction because about doing anything they want to humanity because they have no connection with humanity, which is the fundamental definition of a psychopath. They are connected to nothing and to no one. They are affiliated to nothing and no one. Not, people say, well, they're Jewish or they're Muslim or they're whatever. They're not. These people are completely unconnected to any religion. They will use a religion. They will use a nation state. They will use an affiliation in the same way that you use a Kleenex, and after you have soiled it, you throw it away. It has no meaning to you. You're unaffiliated with the Kleenex. But these people are unaffiliated with the structures that they use to accomplish their work. They have no affiliation with anything or anyone except their own perceived well-being. You don't have to invoke reptiles for which we haven't got the slightest hint of evidence that there's any truth in that model. But you do have to look at what a psychopath is. These people are perfect psychopaths who have been placed in positions where they have total resource availability. They have no limits on anything that a resource can bring them. Nothing. So that's interesting. So Miss Patriot writes, how can I get so many people to want the same thing they do? Chris, I'd like you to answer that question from your point of view.
Well, I have my own definition of psychopath that I've came upon a couple years ago in my own mind, and I've stuck with it, and I think it's true. You can define a psychopath as someone that has no connection to their own heart.
Yes. Yes, that works very well.
Yeah. And most people don't realize that the heart, actually about 70% of the heart, has the same type of cell as our brains do. So you literally have a brain in your heart, but if you do not develop that connection, you're on your own. And if you simply punch into start page social Darwinism, you can begin to understand these people.
Say more.
Well, just go back to the 1930s and study our wonderful leaders from the UK, like Bertrand Russell, Julian Huxley, the founder of UNESCO. Just read some of their stuff.
They were eugenicists. Weren't they eugenicists? They thought they had to improve the human race.
Yeah. That's what the whole gig is about, is eugenics, population control. And, I think us truthers need to get population control on the radar, not that we need it now. I don't mean that at all, because I personally believe we could easily feed the whole world with hemp myself. But
well, one of our advisors, Chris, is actually a professor of sustainability, Tony Pereira, who has been wonderful, been on our show several times, and he shows that this planet can certainly support its current population and even a larger population without, if we were just taking a sustainable approach. And I agree, and hemp is certainly a part of that sustainability.
But this is the issue that I believe we should bring up onto the table, is the cabal thinks that 100 years ago they suggested we need to do something about overpopulation, but the sheeple didn't respond, so therefore we're going to take it into our own hands and be responsible. Okay? Now, you may or may not agree with what I just said. That's their viewpoint. Okay? What I believe our biggest weapon against them would be to openly start to come up with ideas on how to deal with overpopulation, And it would take a lot of power away from these people, because there's so many people out there that know what's going on, and and they comply with it, even though it's evil, downright evil. They comply going, well, at least somebody's doing something about it, okay? Whereas us truther types, we say, well, we could easily feed the world as it exists today, and that is absolutely true. But we should at least philosophically address the concept of overpopulation, and we would take a lot of power away from the people that are in power right now, having their evil ways with us.
Well, the best way to control population is to bring electricity to poor communities.
Which is why
see, there's lots of ideas, but ignoring these issues is just empowering these people that are running our world.
I agree with that. I want to make the point that there are multiple solutions to the problem.
That's absolutely right.
Define the problem. Hemp is one solution. Ethanol is another solution. Herbal and homeopathic and environmental medicine is another solution. And they're all correct. They're all correct because the problem is enormous. So when we find a solution that rings in our heart, that we are passionate about, as you have about hemp, then it is incumbent upon us as human beings to follow that solution, not because the other solutions are wrong, but because the other solutions and this one are right. It's a big world. It's a complicated mess. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of solutions to fix it. It's fixable.
Right. And see, the thing is, most people cannot get is we are in the middle of a eugenics war, and we have been for 100 years. There's people out there that say our population would be 11 billion right now if these eugenicists hadn't taken control, and they've killed about 4 billion people already. And the really sick thing is they have an actual quantitative goal by 2050. They want to be at 1 billion or under. And, people need to research that. Just, research it.
That can only happen, that could only happen if 90% of the human race becomes infertile, and then 90% of those who are hanging around die prematurely.
That's right. I mean, they are right on schedule. We're living in the middle of World War III right now, but it's going at Fabian speed and behind the scenes.
Well, at some point, though, the death rate will become obviously so much greater than the birth rate that people will notice it. What would they say then, other than, oh, gee, this is a terrible phenomenon, we need to study it?
Well, listen to this. Here in Denver, the majority of billboards now by the highway are about, come to our hospital, we're the best at cancer.
Right.
And that's not something I read on the web. That's me telling you because I saw it with my own eyes,
Absolutely. The cancer industry is as yummy as anything can be for a depopulationist. Just
Absolutely
yummy.
Correct. Absolutely right. That's the agenda. You see, people don't even know that there are literally thousands of NGOs, non-governmental organizations, funded by the bankers that are full-time with retirement pensions that spend their whole career figuring out how to do things like Fukushima, fluoride in the water, chemtrails, etc., etc., etc.
This is true. This is absolutely true.
How do they justify in their own minds what they're doing? I mean, Dr. Rima, you and I saw that video of the lady from the pharmaceutical industry who comes clean. Why do so many not come clean? Why do they wait till they retire, like the man from the World Bank? In that video.
That's right.
Let's say that you're a matrix man or matrix woman, okay? And you have been led deep into the matrix, step by step, gradually. Your education took you there, and then you got a more and more responsible job, and your salary went up, and your privilege and your esteem in society went up, and you've been read into the program, as they would say, in the military, at one level and another level, and you've been privileged and you've been patted on the head and told you were a good boy or a good girl, and now you're part of the matrix and you have forgotten your scruples because the seniors above you who have been rewarding and shaping you tell you that your scruples are for the peasants, but really as a member of the elite, you understand the truth. And the truth, of course, is what they gave you, and you've bought into it with your lifestyle, with your family, with your social convenience, and with your intellect. And now you have a choice. You figure it out, like the engineers in the 70s who understood that the Mark I and Mark II were being designed to do damage. And now you understand it, and you've got a choice. You can either blow the whistle and run the risk of complete repudiation and financial and possibly personal destruction, and do not put that past them. Do not. There are lots and lots of dead scientists, biologists, microbiologists who have been trying to talk about the creation of the genetically engineered plagues. At last count, as far as I know, there are 108 dead scientists on that particular issue alone. There may be more. And so you say,
yep.
oh, and then you get to the end of your career, you've survived, and you have grandchildren, or some life event tells you how precious life is, and you suddenly realize that you're going to your grave with this on your conscience, and maybe you're religious, maybe you're not. Then you decide now it's safe for you to speak out, like, or at your retirement party, like the IMF dude, you speak out still being a member of the matrix and think it's utterly cool what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
And you haven't become repentant, you're just proud.
Yeah.
Indeed. Indeed. We are at 11:59 a.m. East Coast time. I know we were late in getting started, but we need to wrap up the program because people do have their schedules for the day. Any last words, folks?
I want to thank Chris. He is a new friend for us, and he is a powerful speaker, a great analyst of data. He's unafraid, and he deserves to be listened to. Chris, I hope you will come back and be our guest again. I hope that you will take the opportunity to send us any articles, links, or essays or blogs that you choose to write. I have really enjoyed getting to know you, and so far I haven't found anything you've said that I disagreed with.
Now, Chris, toward the end of January, we are having our 4th annual War Council, where we'll bring General Burt on the program for a special program. I think it's the 3rd or the 4th Sunday of January, and we will analyze, bring on some guests. We hope you'll participate as part of a panel that we'll be doing of people who will be listening to the presentations and making comments. It'll be a lot of fun. We've done this for 3 years. Twice we've done it live in a room and broadcast that. Twice this will be the second time we've done it purely online. But that's what we want to do, and we ask you all to participate. Stay in touch. Keep an eye on the new website, SaveMyLifeDrRima.com. The people who hacked us forced us to bring it live sooner than we expected. The old healthfreedomusa.org website is there, but soon the main page there will point directly to Save My Life, Dr. Rima, and the old site will be an archive that you'll have to access through an archive link. So be aware of that. The hackers made us move faster, and that's good. Everything they do turns to our benefit. Thank you, Dr. Rima. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, folks.
My honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we off, Ralph?
Not quite.
On our freedoms, destroying our health, shredding the Constitution, taking away our wealth. But we're the men and women following freedom's trail, following where the truth leads.